Welcome to Vets to PM's Military Transition Academy podcast, the show where we discuss how to succeed in transitioning from the military service to the civilian workforce. This show and the academy it represents helps veterans transition into meaningful, lucrative post-service careers. Your primary host is Eric Doc Wright, PhD, certified manager, military veteran, serial founder, best-selling business author, philosopher, linguist, and coach. Your other host is Jeremy Burdick, project management professional, scrum master, product owner, and retired Air Force chief, and the current COO of Vets to PM and the Professional Development Unit University, where we will interview veterans successful in corporate America and business to bring you nuggets of wisdom every episode to make you more successful. Next, let's introduce today's guest. This week's guest is a special one for me as a personal friend, and I've known him for as long as I joined the Air Force and for even longer after since we've retired. His name's Christopher Slaughter, and he joined the Air Force as a jet engine mechanic in 1996. He worked the flight line all the way to engine back shop before retraining in 2004 to become a flight engineer. He spent many years deployed in support of OIF, OEF, and then he retired from active duty in 2014 under the TERA II program, and that was basically early retirement authorization. And then he got a job in the petrochemical field and eventually became the shift supervisor prior to retiring once and for all in May of 22. And what he won't say, and I pulled it out of him in the video, he retired at a young age of 45. So this guy's got some financial chops, and I hope you tune in. All right. Well, Chris, awesome. Thanks for joining the show. It's a bit of a special episode. I don't have Doc with me to bring up the energy in here, but I'll try to do my best to keep it rolling and keep it going. Like you heard in the bio, Slaughter was a Air Force guy, did a lot of cool things, but what we really want to talk about is the transition and what we can learn from, what he did. So let's just start off a little bit about your journey, and then we can go into the transition portion.
Absolutely. I started off with you actually, as engine mechanics. We crossed over to the flight engineer world, became flight engineers, and then it came time to retire. And my story is a little bit different than most because I took the TERA II. So I actually got out a couple years prior to most, the 20-year, what everybody's used to doing. So I got it a couple years prior. My reasons for doing that were a little bit different based on, cross training and what the force was doing to the different aircraft and what I was going to have to do. So for me, that was a right decision, and I'll stick by the decision today. I think I made the right decision, but there is a lot of things you need to look at prior to making those decisions, and I'm glad people like Jeremy are doing this to help out those guys that need that extra help.
Yeah, man. So obviously, and it probably is not going to come over in the bio or anything, but they used to do buddy enlistments, like where you would join with a buddy and kind of have that thing. I don't think we could have been any closer to that. I think we pretty much joined the service within a couple months of each other. Started out at Dias as engine mechanics, went over to Yokota as engine mechanics, and then both cross-trained to flight engineer from there. Didn't really get to fly a whole lot together, but it get a little bit. But really just a cool journey I've got to share with you, Chris, and I've appreciated your friendship and a lot of the knowledge sharing that we've done over the years. So couldn't ask for a better buddy program if I would have planned for it. So loving the friendship, and then I'm loving that after retirement we're still keeping it going. But tell the folks a little bit what the TERA means. It's the Early Retirement Authority, but when did that come up? And then just a quick calculus of your decision, not that you made, looking back to 2020, right? But at the time, you probably wrestled with, am I ready? I haven't had a lot of time for transition. I don't want to put too many words in your mouth, but, just kind of roll through what the TERA was and how you made that decision.
Okay. The first time that it came out was they had a TERA that just came out. I think it was TERA 1, or I don't even know if it had a 1 at that point, but the TERA came out, and I looked at it. And for me at that point, I think it came out a year prior to TERA II. And at that point, I wasn't ready. Honestly, I looked at everything. I looked at my finances, and I was like, man, I'm not sure if I can do this. And I wanted to do it because I was trying to look big picture where I'm going after that, because I understand that, you know, in your 40s and which most people retire at, you're going to start to expire. People are looking at that. Employers are looking at your age. So I kind of looked at that, and I've heard older people tell me that you have an expiration date at some point, and employers are looking at that, even though they're not supposed to. I got it. But they do. And so I started looking at that, and I wasn't ready. So then TERA II came out, and I wasn't really sure, because it's the temporary early retirement authority that Congress enacted. And Obama at the time was president, and he was trying to reduce the force by about 25,000 people. And so I'm like, maybe I can do it this time. I got 2 years left. I'm going to retire in 2 years. That's my 20-year mark. Maybe I can try it out. And, you know, I honestly had no plan. I did get a part-time job to try to prepare me. So I got a part-time job at Walmart, and I was just stocking shelves to try to like reduce some of my debt prior to eventually possibly retiring. And then it came up, the TERA II. I applied, and then boom, now I know a reality happened. And I literally had months to figure it all out. And so that's where I was. And I found a job that would take me in right after retirement. And that's what I did. Now, I understand that whatever job you get after you retire or after you separate is not going to be your forever job. It wasn't for me in that case. Usually, from what I've been trained in all my TAPs and things that I went through over the years in the military, is that usually it takes 2 or 3 jobs before you even get one close enough to line up with where you're currently making. And so I took that job, and that's what I did. I went into terminal leave, and I took that job. And then I found another job prior to leaving active duty. And I actually picked up my couple CCAF degree while I was on terminal leave also, which I recommend that you knock that out too before terminal leave.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I wouldn't say the optimal planning was in effect in this situation, but it was accelerated, right? You weren't.
Yes.
An opportunity came about that accelerated the decision making. And how many times have you found that to be true just across everything? Like, so these opportunities come up, and the people who are super successful are the ones that are prepared for the opportunity. It's not luck. It's like you just prepared for it, and then you're able to capitalize on it. And that happens all the time throughout our lives. And it's not just military transition. It's going to be, you know, job opportunities. If it says, hey, you've got to have this credential, you got to go scramble to grab it, you're probably a little late, right? But if you had it ahead of time, then you're ready to capitalize on the opportunity. So really cool. I'm glad it worked out, and you were still able to make the calculus decision to go for it. And good on you for, hey, let me go get a little bit of civilian experience before I actually pull the Band-Aid. Or in your case, the Band-Aid gets pulled off for you, because now you're approved. There's no turning back. So anyway.
It came up pretty quick, and I was kind of shocked. And the sticker shop, I had to pull that Band-Aid off real fast because I didn't have a choice. It was like I put in, okay, oh yeah, 3 months, you're retired.
Yeah.
So you don't get to use that. I mean, I wish that. I mean, they got some great programs right now that where you can be an intern. That's a great program that they didn't have available, and I don't think I would have had time to use it. But that's an awesome program. I forget what it's called.
SkillBridge.
SkillBridge. Yes, my son just used it, and it actually worked out very well for him.
Yeah.
He did 6 years in the military. He got out 6 months prior. He got a job with L3 Harris, and that's where he's working right now. And you know, he's happy for now.
Yeah.
So there's some good programs out there for people. Mine was a little bit down and dirty. I don't exactly recommend that method, but I felt like I was prepared. So you can laterally move in one direction or another if you are a little bit more prepared than most. You know?
Yeah. That's depend. We do a SkillBridge program. We're authorized providers, and what we do is a lot of times we'll post you into a host company, and we'll give you some training while they give you the experience. And then we're seeing like a 96, 93% first-time placement rate. So as they go in there, it's supposed to be temporary, or at least that's how it's, you know, programmatically explained. But in reality, what we're seeing is they love that veteran talent. Like they get the guy and gal who shows up to work on time, takes their responsibilities seriously, and they're expert learners. They learn really fast at the job. And then, like you said, and I like how you pointed it out, I think Doc says like somewhere in the 60% of people when they transition and take their first civilian job, transition out of that job. You even go a one step further. It probably take you 2 to 3 positions, maybe not companies, but at least 2 to 3 positions before you find that economic earning potential that you were used to having in the military. So it's good advice if, for all those out in the MTA nation listening, it's really good advice if you think about it. Don't turn down the opportunity just because it's not exactly what you want. Go ahead and accept the opportunity. It's a lot easier to look for a job when you have a job, when you're putting food on the table and not going hungry. Right. So
Yeah.
your thoughts on that? I mean, would you say that's good advice, or would you say hold out for the position that you really want?
I would say no. For one, any position that you're going to get is going to be experience. So you have that going. And most people are looking at you as future employers looking at you. They're looking, where are you working right now? Well, how are they doing? How you doing with that? Do you have, they may not call your previous employer. I've done interviews with guys from all different, I went to the petrochemical industry and actually I did very well. Moved from an operator to being a supervisor to interviewing people. And I just did interviews a couple years ago. And they were all over the place. I was getting people from the military. And honestly, in this industry where I went to after retirement, the petrochemical, oil and gas, refining, all that industry, dude, we love military people. Those are the people we want. Every person that I put in to get hired on with the company that I worked for, and I won't mention them because it doesn't matter, they're all the same. They hired every one of them. Very few were turned down, and they probably did it themselves or something, but most of them are experienced with prior service military people. As they show up, they do what they're supposed to do, and they don't complain. And we've seen that in the military. Obviously we've all had little complaints here and there. I got it. It's fun to do. But honestly, these people that we're getting from the military on the civilian side are actually doing a very good job, and we prefer to hire them over civilians. They're a lot more disciplined and they actually will work.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Military.
Yeah. I add that to the list, right? They don't complain, right? They don't bring up lawsuits because you wore the wrong color or said the wrong thing. It's usually thick enough skin to get by through a couple of days of hard work, so yeah. I get it. That's awesome. You don't even think about saying that. A lot of times I bring up, you're drug free, you show up on time, you're responsible, you're a quick learner. But I think there's something to that is you understand that hard work is a thing and you've done it before. So it's nothing new to you, when it comes out into the real world, and it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows and, I like that. So perseverance, right? Like, how to adapt to the situation. So I like that. Now, as we talked about, like 2-3 positions, you want to talk about, hey, why did you take the Walmart and then the next stepping stone and then the petrochemicals, kind of where you landed?
Well, I took Walmart because I knew I was going to be getting out at some point. I was going to do that anyways. And really it wasn't, the company name doesn't matter, because prior to that, when I was in Japan, I delivered pizza part-time. I've always had a couple jobs.
Forgot about that.
I delivered most coaches at Yokota like nobody's business.
Yeah, I forgot. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, I worked that thing for a couple of years, but I'm always about trying to better myself, make a little bit more money, do better. I think for me, it was just the plan. And so my goal was to reduce debt prior to getting, and that's why I got the job at Walmart, just stocking shelves. And then once I got out, I was like, well, this is not going to be sustainable for what I'm trying to do. Not that it can't, it's just for what I was trying to do. And I knew I wasn't going to be there forever. So I was like, I need to move on. Then that's when I got a job at Sanderson's Farms as a maintenance person doing in the hatchery, which wasn't bad, but I knew it wasn't my forever. And so when the job came up, and honestly, I went back to what I started doing before I even joined the military, was oil and gas. And so it was natural selection to go back to what I did, and kind of having a maintenance background, it was just normal. And so when I went back to oil and gas, that's when I did. I turned over and I actually started making the money that I was making prior to retiring.
There you go. Third,
so it takes a couple of times.
I like it. I like it. So, I mean, you progressed through on your third position is really where you found your home, maybe a little bit longer term home. I know you're retired now, but that goes into a little bit of the planning side of things from a financial perspective, which is really the meat that I want people to hear on this message, because from my perspective, you're one of the more savvy, financially sound individuals that kind of had the same blue collar upbringing, enlisted Air Force, and now you've really launched your family well beyond the strata or the dome, as some would put it, in a financial status of kind of the middle class. You kind of pushed yourself well up into the upper strata. So let's just talk a little bit about, one, your mindset when you were young, and then your mindset as you started to transition from the military, and then say, hey, dude, I'm looking at early retirement. So those 3 steps, let's just talk just a little bit about the mindset that went into it.
Okay. Years ago, obviously, we can go back some years, talking about coming in as an airman basic, brand new. I actually took a pretty big pay cut coming in the military. I was working oil and gas, and I did things. I was fire watch, hole watch, working in refineries, doing maintenance and things like. So I took a pretty big pay cut. So coming in the military was different. And I came in a little bit later than most. I got married a little bit younger than most too. So I did come in a little bit later, and I was married already prior to coming in. So, I mean, coming in, not a lot of money. You know what it is? What, $833 a month as an airman basic? I remember that because I lived on it. VHA before BAQ, and BAH, or actually VHA and BAQ before BAH. You got it. Man, I remember putting food on a credit card. Honestly, I put food on a credit card, and I was like, this ain't happening. So over years, I was kind of more financially savvy with where my money went. And over the years, I tightened down. And then when the opportunity finally came out, and I think 2003, 2004, they offered the TSP to us for the first time. And then that's when I started introducing some money into the market. From then, I kind of like did a little bit, stopped a little bit. But when I retired is when I realized that I really needed to start making a change in how I invested. And so I started dumping a bunch of money, as much as I could afford, into the market, into 401ks, into IRAs, into mutual funds. And that's what enabled me to be where I'm at today. Because honestly, like in 2020, when the market crashed, I said, this is a good opportunity to throw some money in the market. So I just started throwing money in the market, and it actually paid off very well. But you got to start early. And that is the key. You have to start day one, honestly.
Yeah.
I tell my kids this all the time. I still have buddy of mine right now that's our same age, retired with us, same time. And I had a conversation with him like 2 days ago. It's like, dude, do you have a 401k? No. Do you have an IRA? No. Do you have a mutual fund? No. Well, you need to call me back this weekend, and we need to set that up, because you got to start somewhere. You're not going to live on retirement and Social Security alone. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, yeah. Great point, man. And let me just like back it up for the guys out there listening, the gals listening as well, is, hey, listen to some words of wisdom from somebody that can see and has been there, and they can see, hey, listen, I can't make it in my retirement and my disability and my, Social Security and be comfortable. Like, I think one of the, you said it and we kind of buzzed right by it, but what likely affected your mindset the most is when you're putting food on a credit card. Like, I can't do that. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to do what I can do now is walk through a grocery store, not look at prices, throw it in my basket and check out, and not even think about balancing a book. That's where you want to be, to where you have some financial margin and freedom. And the way that, Chris said you get there is you start early, right? You don't do it all in chunks. You do it methodically over and over, as much as you can put in, as young as you can go. And why? Because compound interest is one of the, major forces of nature, so I love it, man. Did something trigger around your transition where you were like, I guess, what was the driving factor to really jump into more? Did you realize, hey, dude, I'm not going to be able to retire till I'm 65? Or, what was it that made you think, I really got to play a little bit more in this market?
Well, being as a flight engineer, you're around, we're around a lot of the officer corps, honestly, more educated people. We're not around just the strictly enlisted going up. So you're around a lot of the officers, colonels, all the way up. And so you always hear what they're talking about. And so I always, I don't actually get in the conversations for the most part, but I did listen to what they had to say when they were talking about it. I did kind of eavesdrop a little bit and let me look into it for myself. And that's really what you got to do. You got to look into it for yourself, and you got to put the money. It's not that you can't afford it. You can't afford not to invest. Honestly, you can't afford not to invest.
Good
because
point.
you do it on your income alone. Back in the day when I was senior airman, part-time, another part-time job, I actually vacuumed a office building. And I did that for like 2 years. And they paid me about $600 a month to vacuum this office building. But the vacuuming wasn't the point. The point is every day I walked into it, and one of the offices that I went to was a Merrill Lynch. I vacuumed and took the trash out of a Merrill Lynch office. And I would always see this sign on the wall that said, you will make more off your investment than you do off your job. And I always took that to heart. I always said, you know what? And guess what? You will make way more money off your investments than you ever do off your job. So
wow.
You can take that. And I did. And that was in 1996, 7.
Yeah.
And I remember it to this day.
Yeah, I remember you were doing that back in when we were at Dias, right? So that's where it was.
Yeah. Right across from that Burger King right there. Those 2 offices buildings. One was a Merrill Lynch, and that's the one I cleaned.
That's too cool. I love the fact that you just learning from your environment. So you're looking from around your environment, see a sign, and like, okay, golly, it's at a Merrill Lynch. It's got some weight behind it. You tried it. You tried it out, and you found it to be true, and even took it a step further, way more. And I like that. I mean, it's super important to be financially sound so that you can, not be bound by all, every decision in your life won't have to be financial, as far as like making yourself happy at work either. Like, imagine if you didn't have to have X amount of paycheck, but you really love doing something else. You could go for the love if you're financially sound. So it just gives you some more creative opportunity to choose your own destiny, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Well, as we keep going with this, like, I don't want it to get lost on the people listening. Is what is some initial strategies that you would propose, and then let's go into some advanced strategies that you utilize to make you successful.
Obviously, I mean, most people, the first thing you want to do in any situation is set up some kind of retirement account, right? And so obviously the ones available, you're going to look at, it's TSP. If you're still in, it's there. It's already there. It's already set up for you. All you get to do is just do it. There's a whole bunch of different 401ks. Well, actually, no, you have to have an employer that provides a 401k, but IRAs, you can set up IRAs, either Roth or traditional, depending on what you're trying to do, or mutual funds. So for me, what I did was, obviously, I set up the TSP when it started out, and I was off and on how much I put into it or not. At one point, I was putting in 20%, and at some points, I was putting in nothing because of the market. And I was just looking at the market back in the day. once I got out and I started looking at that direction, I started looking at, well, what age do I want to retire at? What job do I have? How much income do I have? How much retirement do I have? What rank did I retire at? How much of that do I have coming in? Do I have anything else? Did I have any retirement income from, like, say, rental income that I bought years ago that now I have that coming in? So you got to look at your situation individually and say, okay, well, okay, I have these things coming in. Now, where do I want to go? Now, do I want to retire at 65? Because you can't touch your 401k or your IRA or whatever until 59 and a half in most cases. There are some stipulations at 55 for a 401k, but besides the point, mostly it's 59 and a half. So do you want to retire at 59 and a half? If you don't want to retire at 59 and a half and you want to retire earlier, you may have to put some money into some things that are going to be, the money will be available to you earlier that you're not having to pay taxes on now and penalties. So that's some of the things I had to weigh in. What do I want to pay now? What do I want to take money later? So I was looking, well, let me set up a mutual fund because I can take that anytime. Let me set up an IRA because that'll back me up when I'm at 59 and a half. And then everything else after that, I'll throw some money into the stock market via, E-Trade, Robin, whatever financial institute you decide to use, and try to throw some money in the market there. So I'm very diverse and I'm not in one particular category. And I do that for a reason because I wanted to retire early. So I wanted money now.
Right.
So
yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Chris,
it's a lot of information.
He's a humble dude. We'll break it down a little bit. First,
Okay.
None of this show is investment advice that's qualified. So this is just
True.
It's his path. It's our path. And I take his advice, but that's because I love him. And I see how extremely successful. So, what you're listening to is a multimillionaire what age are you, Chris?
46. Just turned 46.
No,
Retired at 45.
Retired at 45, multimillionaire. And the reason I brought him on the show, guys, is so that you could see, if you prepare a little bit up front and you use some sound investment strategies, and the most sound advice that he's given is just start early, right? Start simple, start early, get going. Don't wait for tomorrow. Like literally open up your bank while you're listening to this and just start the account. Right?
It doesn't take much. $20 a paycheck, $10 a paycheck. It doesn't matter. Right now it's cheap. The market is cheap right now. We're on sale.
That's right.
We're on sale right now.
Great perspective, right? When the market's down, it doesn't mean pull your back. You actually want to dip a little bit deeper so that you're buying on the cheap, right? So, I mean, that at least is all what I've always been told. When the market's down, buy a little bit more. And when it comes back, you just made up all that extra. So anyway, I think there's one comment in there, at least at a minimum, that I'd like them to hear is when you said the TSP, right? So yeah. Which did you go with IRA wise? Did you go traditional or did you go Roth?
Originally, obviously I started with the TSP and then I went with one of the L funds on the TSP side. So since we're started with TSP, I figured I'd go there. I started with an L fund. I honestly, I did a 2030 or 2040. I can't remember what it was back in the day when I did it. I didn't have a whole lot of success with those funds. I ended up throwing it into individual funds so I could have a little bit more control in it. And I know they're supposed to move things around for you, but to me, it wasn't happening in the correct portion right. that I wanted it to. So I kind of went to some S funds and I kind of divided up a little bit there. But honestly, as far as you're talking about like an IRA or something like that, you're talking about traditional over Roth. Really what you're talking about is, do I want to pay taxes now or do I want to pay taxes later? So depending on what your income is now, you may want to take that break now. That is all individual based. No one can tell you do you want to pay taxes now? Now, one thing we do know is that we know what the taxes are now. We do know that. We have no idea what they're going to be in the future, and most likely they're going to be higher. I I mean, if you look at tradition, you're going to pay higher taxes in 20 years than you are right now. So I don't really know. I mean, like I said, I can't give you one direction or another, but I have a little bit of both. Honestly, I have a traditional and I have a Roth, and it just depends on how I want to throw my money, depending on how I'm doing that year.
Good.
If I'm trying to save money, maybe I want to save taxes. If depending on how the year went, maybe I want to throw into the other fund. That's all up to the individual, honestly.
Yeah.
But options, you don't have to have $1 million or even $100,000 in one account. You can have a 25 in this, 25 in this, 25 in this. They don't have to be all in the same account. You still have the same total gross. So that's something to think about.
That's partly why I wanted to ask it that way, is because I know you have both.
Yes.
I also have both, but it's for the exact same reason. It's for options. So I know that, my current income is X, and if I want to break, then I put a little bit more into the pay the taxes, or defer the taxes to put more money into the market. And if I want it later, I'll go with the Roth, So, I mean, it's just kind of one of those personal decisions. But lately, based on a lot of your advice and prodding, it's been the actual stock market so that I have liquidity, which really just means I have the availability to pull my money in and out at a moment's notice to either purchase something or to repurchase a different stock. So any other tips and tricks investment wise that you want to share?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because it was funny because you just brought that up. And I was like, okay, I didn't bring that up on purpose because we were just talking about investments as far as like retirement type stuff. For me, most people, you got your day traders out there that like to go in there. They like to buy low, sell high, make some money, get in, get out, get it. That's not me. If that's what you're looking for, I'm sorry, that's not me. I'll dabble a little bit here and there when the opportunity arises. But for me, that's not the bread and butter. Honestly, for me, the bread and butter is I'm more consistent, and I want a consistent type of income, and especially in retirement. I want to put my money in somewhere, and I want it to pay me back somehow. And so technically right now, honestly, I'm more in dividends. I'm a dividend stock guy, 100%. I can go out, like I say, I'll dabble a little bit, and I might buy low and sell high and do a little bit of money here and there, but not much. Everything I got is I'll research a company, and I'll try to find a sound company, and I'll see what their dividends are. And I'll purchase that company, and either I'll roll the dividends and have it just grow that way. Or at some point you would hope to get to a point to where you can just start pulling those dividends out, and that be your monthly income every month. So actually that's where I'm at right now. I just roll off dividends. So I do have to still move my money a little bit around to keep the dividends prosperous. I don't just take them as a grain of salt. Oh, they're going to do well, and just leave them. I do watch them, but for the most part, I pick some solid, good companies. Your big companies out there, not your penny stock people, and ones that are giving good dividends and that are going to continue to give good dividends. And then that's who I roll with. And I've been very successful with dividends, honestly.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's great, because what you're doing is you're setting up passive income.
Yes.
Right. It's basically a paycheck. So although you're retired, not having to go to work, your money is now working for you. Kevin O'Leary, he said it really well when he said, when I send my money out, it's like little soldiers. I want it to go find other money, capture it, and bring it back to me.
Yes.
So that's kind of what a dividend is. I'm a big fan of them as well. Obviously, thanks to Chris here. It just opens up a whole different thought process when you're investing, and it's an immediate return on your money that's above and beyond the value return of interest. So I dig it. I think it's really cool. Be careful out there for anybody who is looking.
Yes, very be careful. Be careful.
Yeah. But dividends, classically, whatever they give you, and it drops the share price. If it recovers, that's a much more healthy situation. If it doesn't recover and slowly dwindles into nothing, you could lose all your money. So really do your
research on that one, definitely, especially because there are some that literally just pay the price out, and over time that price will dwindle. Do your homework on them. The bigger companies, their prices, let's say $20 a share out of they'll pretty much stay $20 a share, and they'll give dividends out depending on their earnings. But yes, there are some that will give you a big dividend, and your price will slowly fall, and you will lose everything you had. Actually, they're giving it all back to you, but a little at a time. And you're not thinking that. You're thinking I'm growing, and you're not growing. You're actually just getting all your money back.
Right.
So there is that out there. So be careful of that.
Yeah, the money exchange, right? They're handing you back. You invested, they give it back to you in installments.
Yeah. The kicker on that is to trend. Always look at trends, see what the 1 year trend is and see why it's doing what it's doing. See the 5 year trend. I know if you look at a lot of 5 year trends that me and Jeremy looked at lately, you'll see them. And at March of 2020, you'll see a big drop. And because it's the pandemic, and we understand that, and I can take that in consideration when I'm thinking about stuff. But if I'm seeing a 1 year and I'm like a 40 or 50% loss, and it's just steady loss, I'm not sure if that's a dividend stock for me. I want one that's going to be up and down and just kind of be like give dividends out, but don't be a steady drain. And you got to watch out for those and be careful of that, because that will get you every single time.
Yeah. So we talked about investing in the stocks and bonds and the market, IRAs, and we talked about retirement income. We talked a little bit about disability, Social Security. What other recommendations do you have as far as creating long-term wealth?
There's always the rental income possibly out there. I have rental income also. I have found later in life, I started out, I bought a house years ago, and, like most people do in the military, they end up buying a house and they end up moving and they end up renting it out because they either can't sell it or choose, man, I'm going to use it for an investment, which is always good. But be careful on that one too, because you do pay out a lot. And I have found on my house that honestly, for my rental house, if I would just sell the rental house and throw it in the market, I could probably come out ahead, more ahead. I'm fortunate that my house is paid for, so all my rental income is profit other than taxes and insurance and things like that. But there's certain situations where rental income could be more of a pain in the butt than what it's really worth, and you could actually get more money out of the market than you can rental income. But I use it as real property. It's not going to go away. The stock market falls, I still have a piece of property. And so that's my way of diversifying tangible assets from more assets that are not tangible, so to speak. But there's a lot of those out there too. There's a ton of ways to make money.
Yeah. I know you've had several houses in the past, and you've made decisions to get rid of some and keep some.
Yes.
And I guess maybe that's the mindset or the tip that you might, lay out why you kept one versus getting rid of the other one. And I think you kind of unpacked it there. Is it, hey, if the rent exceeds the cost, then it's income, right? But then you got the pain in the butt thing too of maintenance, the renters. Well, so just expand on that just a bit, because that's not monetary. That's more of a gut feeling or a gut check.
Well, some of the ones that I considered more of a pain would be like, for instance, a house that say had a pool. I wouldn't want to use that as a rental income if it had a pool personally, because it's just more maintenance. It's more upkeep. It's just more people going out there dealing with it. Your simple house, the houses that I kept were simple. They had nothing special going for them. There's just a standard 2-3 bedroom, 2 bath, 3 bedroom, 2 bath standard house. And the ones that I chose not to pursue or keep would be ones that had more headaches. A pool, lots of land to keep up with, trees, other things. So I'm trying to keep things simple, because I could take that same money and throw it in the market and I don't have to think about nothing. So I want something that's not going to be a headache down the line. So if it's going to be a headache, I would just rather get rid of it and then move that money somewhere else. It's going to be easier in retirement. And that's behind that.
Yeah. So keep it simple.
Yes. Keep it simple.
If you're going to have a rental and you've got complex versus, simple, maybe sell the complex one and keep the simple one, because, especially if it's right next to a base, right? You probably will have plenty of renters, so.
Yes.
I like that. I like that, but not the one with the trees or the
Yeah,
pool.
yeah, the pool, all the other stuff, the extra little land over here. I got to keep landscaping. It just costs you more money in the long run, and there's nothing wrong with it. You might make more money off of it, I'm not trying to say one way is better than the other. I'm just saying from my experience, what I've seen, I've had better luck here than here. Now everybody's different. So
Yeah. And the housing market, right? Timing is everything when you're talking about
yes,
housing. Right now, probably not the best time to sell. I mean, we're probably still a little preheated from the hottest housing market that we've seen in probably 10 years. We're just getting
right.
off of it.
You also have to purchase, which means you have the highest interest rates that you've had in the last 30, 40 years too.
That's right.
So,
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, everything's cyclical. It comes, goes up, it goes down. And then just to add that into your calculus for anybody listening is the simplicity factor, but also the housing market factor, the interest rate, the fact that you're going to have to go buy another house. I did hear a story here recently, and it broke my heart. Older couple decided to sell their home. And this is really pretty, I'm in Texas at this point in this show, not too far from here. They sold their house, got a premium buy on it. They felt like, oh, wow, I got a lot of money for this house. And then they went to go try to buy something, and there's nothing. One, there was no house where they wanted to be. Two, the housing market had rose so much that all the profits that they had on that house, they couldn't afford the mortgage by taking that entire house and putting it into another house and still make it. So they're living, with their children now. So it's like, are you kidding me? Whoever advised them to sell at that moment and looking at their fixed income should be ashamed. Like it broke my heart.
yeah. And what the sad part about that happens all the time, because people are thinking the market's good, man, I can get so much money from this house. Well, they forget that, well, I got to go buy another house, and it's going to be just as expensive. And guess what? Interest rates went way up. So now I'm not even getting the payment that I used to have at 3% here on this house. I'm getting a 7% interest rate on this house. Granted, I paid the same amount of money, but now I'm paying $300 more a month in payment.
Yeah.
And I can't, and that's sad, but that's the reality. So you obviously you have to think about what you're doing, what's going on ahead of you.
Yeah. Run the next step. It's like playing chess, right? Run a couple steps ahead.
Yes.
Go pretend you're buying the house. Look at the current interest rate. See what the monthly payment would be. Oh, by the way, you've got a pool now, so look about that maintenance. I mean, there's just a lot of other things and factors that you want to look at, to include energy bills.
But honestly, that's the same way that I tell people if you're thinking about going into the stock market for the first time. I tell them, set up an account. Pretend that you threw $1,000 in there. Buy a stock. See what that stock does. Research that stock. See what that stock gives you in returns. And then go for it. Don't just throw your money and then lose your money. That's just foolish.
Yeah.
So I mean, play it. If you want to, however you want to do it. If you want to play the market, then play the market, but don't do it with your real money first.
Right.
Do your research. Use YouTube, because there's a lot of people on YouTube that tell you exactly how the tickers work, how the stock market works, how 401ks work, how IRAs work. It's all the resources are out there. It's not like you're looking in encyclopedias like when you were 10 years old and the encyclopedias were already 30 years old. Now we can look on the internet. It's great.
That's right. I do it. I do it all the time. I love it. And, look at some of the companies. If the company's got, a ton of assets and they're posting profits, they're probably going to stick around. It's probably pretty safe. I mean, you can't go wrong with some of these bigger companies out there. So I agree with Slaughter. Obviously, look around, do your research before you jump in. And a mutual fund is a really good way to hedge some of the risk, because you're not putting it into one company, you're putting it into the top 500 companies, so. Yeah. As we wrap this up, man, what other advice might you give a transitioning veteran from the financial perspective, and then also on the job search side?
Honestly, the biggest heads up that I can give is it's just do your research, plan, and then have a backup plan. The state that you're looking to move to and the job that you may be looking to go to may not be in that particular state. And it may not be one it's favorable for you to even get. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing against you. I would look around in different states. If you're looking to go to different states, have options and then have a backup plan. And as far as financial, start early. I mean, if you haven't started already, you're already late. Start now. Just today, go out there, go to iwantoinvest.com, Johnny Boy, and have him set you up an account with whoever. It doesn't matter. The company doesn't matter who you use for that, but start early. Honestly, start early. I wish I would have started earlier. And I would be way better than where I am right now if I would have started at 18 versus, 30 years old, much later in life. So that's my deal, is plan, have a backup plan, and then start early. That's really all I got as far as.
Think of all the ground you made in 15 years.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I love that you say I would have started early, you'd be better off. But I don't know very many people that could say in 15 years, I went from this to that. Right. I mean, so I applaud you. Anybody listening, the reason he's on here is because, one, he's a veteran. Two, he's transitioned successfully. But more than that, I wanted to bring like the financial savvy into it. And it's not that he went to school to be some kind of an investment extraordinaire. I think he did it through grit and hard work and doing some research on some simple companies and staying the course, right? You had probably, when other people would run, you said, no, I'll finish the game. And I would say that probably goes to your risk appetite. You're willing to risk it a little bit to make it a little bit more, right? So that's an outside perspective of why you are so successful. Not to mention you're probably the luckiest dude I ever met, but that's
hey, you got to have a little bit of luck in there sometimes. But
that's right.
Hard work. I tell you what, hard work is honestly just going to work every day and working hard is where I got where I'm at. I mean, I can count the number of days I've missed of work on one hand, the number of days that I missed at work. So, I mean, that's a little bit to it. You work hard, you will get where you're going, but you got to be a little bit smart. And you got to think about what you're doing too, because the world will take advantage of you and they will rip you apart. So,
yeah. And by luck, I meant prepared for the opportunity. That's my definition of luck anyway, is when you're ready to capitalize on an opportunity that's presented to you because you're prepared, because you have extra side money. Because I don't know that I've ever met somebody that has the work ethic that you do. I thought we were jobbing out at working 12-hour days, and then come to find out, dude, you're delivering pizzas on the side. So, I mean,
how'd you knew that? How'd you know I pizza?
Yeah. I mean, I did know it, but I mean, I'm saying from the perspective of when I was a young staff sergeant, and I feel like, dude, we were working 10, 12 hours sometimes. And
16 hours sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, that's
actually.
That's what it takes.
I think when I was in Japan, I worked 4 years of 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
Honestly, those 4 years of 12-hour shifts. Got the weekends off. I got it.
Yeah. But, it was a lot. It was a lot of hours. We did a lot of things, man. We broke a lot of records, and I think that's something to be proud of. But then, I would go home, be beat, and then order a pizza, and there comes Chris. I'm like, dude,
I did drink a beer. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks again for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And I hope the listeners got a little bit of something out of what you said. I think the gold nugget is start now, start early. It can be just a little bit, but when the time for transition comes, even somebody like yourself, there wasn't enough time. Like you can't start too early. I don't care if you're on your first hitch, have an exit plan. Like start to think, what will my next gig be? Because nobody wears the uniform, past 40 years, right? It just doesn't happen. You have to go out and find another job. So, well, cool, man. Thanks again. And see you again.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Hopefully everybody learns a little bit of something from me. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes in my lifetime, but I'm here. All right, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in and spending a bit of time with us at the Military Transition Academy, powered by Vets to PM. If we piqued your interest, but you want more details, please head over to the website vets2pm.com and see if we can help prepare you for a better tomorrow or a future meaningful and lucrative career.